This World Series Game 4 picks edition of the MLB Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog has just added Pick'em Scorchers, where you can win 100x, plus every Sunday they're giving away $100,000. Use the promo code SGPN at Underdog Fantasy for a 100% deposit bonus up to $500. We're brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com. Use code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today. Plus, the MMA Gambling Podcast just launched their YouTube channel. To celebrate, we're giving away a MMA Gambling Podcast hoodie. Head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/MMA hoodie for all the details. Welcome, everybody, to the MLB Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. My name is Malcolm Bamford, coming to you from Newcastle upon Tyne in the northeast of England. Today is Tuesday, the 31st of October, and we have the World Series Game 4 taking place in 9 or 10 hours' time. Joining me is Mr. Scott Reichel. Hello, Scott. How are you?
Yeah, doing pretty well. Looking forward to Game 4.
Yes, well, we did just have a brief little chat about Game 3 off air, and hopefully Game 4's got a little bit more to look forward to than Game 3. Yeah, my time's all over the place, Scott. If you've tried to join this chat live, then you've got me to blame. The clocks changed. When do your clocks change next weekend, Scott?
Yeah, I believe it's the next weekend.
Right. Oh, yeah. So this is the one week of the year that absolutely floors me. Even this morning, I've said before that the NFL starts at a weird time. I keep missing lineups. This morning, I actually was aware of it, and then still went an hour the wrong way. So Scott was waiting for me an hour ago here. I thought we were doing it in 2 hours' time. So I've knocked everybody else sideways as well. So normally I just forget about it. This year I remembered it and then went an hour the incorrect direction. But you could easily have slept through last night's game, Scott. 3-1 to Texas. Texas lead the series 2-1. But it was a very uneventful game, Scott.
Yeah, the game was boring, just simply put. You had a pretty solid offensive showing early in the game, as you ended up seeing 4 runs being scored. You had 3 runs being scored in the third inning. Then you had Arizona threatening in the 8th off Chapman, but they only scored 1 run. That was it. So you had no runs in 7 of the 9 innings. So it was kind of just a boring game, but the Rangers got through mostly because of the Seager home run. You also had some injury news later in the game as Garcia got hurt, but still. Point is, Seager had the big hit to kind of, I don't want to say put the Rangers out of reach because it was just 3 runs, but he basically hit the nail in the coffin to make it 3-0 because Arizona took the night off offensively. So, nice win for the Rangers. They needed it, but the point is we're hoping for a more entertaining game here on Tuesday.
Yeah, there just wasn't much offense around at all. 11 hits. Arizona actually out-hit Texas 6-5. And there was a couple of key moments. And the key moment for Arizona was Christian Walker with just some very, very bad base run. He got thrown out at home base with no outs in the second inning. And just looking at when you watch it again, he got a bad read off the bat. His first couple of moves was backwards towards second. He then ran through a stop sign. He did about 5 different things wrong, all in the space of 150 feet, which was quite impressive, really. Just stopped at third. And we've said before a lot this series about how important it's been to get your nose in front. And teams have struggled to come from behind. And just little margins like that. And Walker held his hands. We knew he made a mistake. At the time, it didn't look crucial. Arizona somehow then end up don't scoring at all in that second inning. And it turns out it was pretty crucial. I thought Brandon Pfaadt pitched well again. He really been one of the stories of the postseason for Arizona. And what I really liked was Torey Lovullo's reaction to Pfaadt when he came out the game. Did you see that, Scott, when Lovullo took quite a lot of time to sit with him on the bench, sort of in between innings when he came out? And even as the game was going on, and it was a proper, almost sort of father-son chat. Just really good leadership, really good management from Lavello towards Far. It was good. And then the injuries that you mentioned as well, they were really the key moments in the game, because Texas got away with them, and the fact that Scherzer left with back spasms after 3. John Gray then came in. It was really good. I mean, what a bonus that was for Texas, because that could have hurt them a little bit. You see Adolis Garcia left with back tightness. And then I don't know how important this will be, but Josh Sports left near the end as well. I think he had 2 mound visits where he clearly felt something in his back. And they visited him, but he was determined to stay in. And I can't remember who he was pitching to. But he got a swing and a miss, and he got the strikeout. But he's been really, really important piece for Texas. Really important. Just under the radar. He's kind of a glue guy in that bullpen. So Texas's road record in the playoffs improves to 9-0, which is pretty impressive if you've been letting that ride every time. And the World Series road game ladder, Scott, that we put up in our World Series pre-game. I don't know where the ladder started. Did it start at 2.5? Did it start at 3.5? Well, that's 2. I'm
trying to remember where it started. I want to say 2.5. I'm not totally sure, but we're already at 2. So
yeah, I will find it just because I'm determined to. I can't find it. Anyway, yeah, you're right. I think it was over 2.5. We went up to over 5.5, 2, 3, 4, and 5, I think. But yeah, it's been a feature. We said it had been a feature of these playoffs, and it has. And so far, we're 2-3 on the road games as well. Stats for 7-game series. All 7-game series that were tied at 1-1. The game 3 winners have won 68 of 99 series. So that's a nice 69%. And in the 2-3-2 format, which we're in currently, the winners of game 3, when it was tied, have won 29 of 39, which is 74%. So a big nod now in the direction of Texas. They are minus 300, which is just about spot on. Somewhere between 69 and 74% with a little bit of juice for the books. Arizona at plus 240. So the bookies have got it right. Making really tonight's game, game 4, an absolutely pivotal game in the destination of this trophy. So yeah, we'll get stuck into game 4. Once I've told you first about Underdog Fantasy, which has got a great way to play alongside your favourite football team all season long. Underdog introduced Scorchers. If you go 5 for 5 and pick them Scorchers, you'll enjoy a spicy 100x on your payout. And for a limited time, Underdog are extending that first deposit bonus. It's back up to $500, so get involved with that. $100,000 Sundays continue on Underdog Fantasy. 10 players winning 10 grand each. So watch along, make your picks, maybe make a little cash over on Underdog's mobile app or website, underdogfantasy.com. Sign up with the promo code SGPN. Underdog, double your first deposit up to $500. Underdog Fantasy, promo code SGPN. Bangers and Bets will be back. We've got more European NFL on Sunday. The games are in Germany, but me and Baz are going to be back with our sausages and our early NFL picks at that's 6 a.m. Pacific time, if I can get my time zones right, on Sunday, so look out for that. And the MMA Gambling Podcast launched the YouTube channel, so they're giving away a hoodie to a lucky winner. Head to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/MMA hoodie to submit your entry. Make sure to subscribe to the MMA Gambling Podcast on YouTube. Right, tonight, the game starts at 3 minutes past midnight, my time. What the hell time's that where you are?
It's going to be around, I believe, 8 p.m.
4 hours, right? 4 hours, not right. So we've gone from 5 to 4. In my head, we've gone from 5 to 6. Okay, 3, right? That makes sense. I'm happy with that. It is a match on the books. Both teams are minus 111 each of 2, and the total is set at 9.5. In the chat, even though I've tried to catch everyone out with the time, Kaysen was first in. Ryan, not seen for a little while. Ryan, how you doing? And Catfish Dilly. Everyone's saying hello to each other in there, which is nice. it's going to be Andrew Heaney for Texas, and Arizona are going with a bullpen day, which we knew. They did it last week against Philly. It was fine. Joe Mantiply will be first taxi off the rank for Arizona tonight. Scott, initial thoughts on all of that?
Well, I know that Heaney, of course, has been a bit hit or miss so far this postseason. I'm not sure if you trust him at all, but Arizona's bullpen's been decent. Mantiply is going to go about 1 inning, and that's going to be all that he's going to contribute for this matchup. But 9.5, I feel like that sounds a bit high. Maybe that's just me, but maybe it's the fact that Garcia got hurt, and that's, of course, one of the bigger threats in Texas' lineup. Arizona's offense, by making the World Series, has been hit or miss at times. 9.5 feels a bit high, doesn't it?
Yeah. My very first, I thought the same yesterday, Scott, actually, because when we did the series preview, we said it sounds like an over series. And we were right in games 1 and 2. And then the books have adjusted. And that looked, especially the way sort of Fart had been pitching, I expected Scherzer to go a little bit better. And maybe I didn't expect John Gray, but it was 9.5 yesterday. That felt high. Completely agree with you. I think the total's too high at 9.5. Yeah, one of my plays will be the under, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, from what we've seen so far in the playoffs, a lot of these games that actually go over are just starters being bad. Most bullpens have actually done pretty well so far this postseason, but I do wonder what the leash is going to be for Heaney and for, honestly, each Arizona reliever, because I'm not sure how long each of them is going to go. But with Garcia potentially not playing, if he does play, I'll take the unders on his props because it's going to be tough to swing with an oblique injury. In fact, he'd probably be on the IL if they weren't in the World Series. So I'd keep an eye on Garcia props if he does suit up because I'll always take the compromised player to not do much offensively. I still like Seager. I don't mind Seager walks. I don't know why they would pitch to him if Garcia is not going to play. But I think looking at this matchup, I think I'm going to lean to Texas just because they're 9-0 on the road. I feel like they've earned some credibility in my eyes when playing in opposing ballparks, but it's not easy based on the unpredictability for the pitching matchup for the spot. But I do like the under because I do think the unpredictability will result in a shorter leash for pitchers involved. So if one pitcher gets shelled, he shouldn't stay in the game long enough to fully tank your under. So I'll go with the under, and I am going to lean to Texas. 9-0 is really tough to go against. I think I might just back Texas until they lose a road game.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. At some point you can't try to work out. I mean, the reporters have been asking Texas players if this is just one of those things or if there's something behind it. Yeah, and I'm not good enough to work that out. It was hard. These bullpen games are hard. We sat here this time last week, Scott, and did the same with the Arizona bullpen game. And when you know Heaney's going to be on such a short leash that none of the pitching props I could get my head around at all, really. There was nothing that appealed. I mean, Heaney started 2 playoff games and he's appeared out with the bullpen twice. He got absolutely lit up at Houston. He secured 2 outs, gave up a ton of everything else. And his 2 relief starts were both in blowouts. So you don't really know what to expect from Heaney. What you can say is that he's going to be on an incredibly short leash. The first sign of any trouble, he'll be getting the hoop. His outs prop is at 9.5, which I think is absolutely spot on. I didn't really want anything to do with that. He moved to the pen early in September, and just nothing appeals at all. Joe Mantiply, high leverage situation, left-handed pitcher for Arizona. And he did it well. It worked well against Philly last week. He only threw 14 pitches, but he struck Schwarber out. And then I think he induced the double play or a ground ball off Harper for the 3rd out. So that's pretty much Mantiply in a nutshell. And then it's just going to be a procession of absolutely everybody else. I think Brandon Farr did them a favour last night and going so deep into that game because they didn't have to throw the kitchen sink at them. Farr went over 5 innings, and so a few lads came in and threw a few pitches, but they didn't drain themselves on it. So I'm going to give Arizona another chance here, Scott, as I pretty much have done every game. But my main play is going to be the under, though. I love that under. Like I said, Heaney will be out quick. The Texas bullpen has been fine. In Arizona, we've got examples of Arizona being able to pull off this strategy. Mantiply to everybody else. And I've sat here about 10 times now in the playoffs and said that I like the Arizona bullpen. And apart from really that one little Paul Sewald giving up game one, they've been trusting as well. So Arizona at -111, and that total of 9.5, I will take on the under. Pitching props, there wasn't much kicking around. I'll have a look at maybe had some batter props, Scott, that you might like in a minute. Let's talk about Hall of Fame bets, helping you win bigger by betting smarter this NFL season. The sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research NFL, NBA, MLB, and soccer with historical stats and data. Put parlays into Hall of Fame Bet's revolutionary parlay optimizer, and you'll get hit rates broken down by leg, as well as expected probability for the parlay. Sort players by hit rate for any bet, so which players are hot and which picks have value. Stop betting in the dark. Join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com. Use code SGPN to get 50% off your first month. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. Drop back into the chat a minute. Mark Alvaruso, Captain Insano. Captain Insano is a dead man walking today. It's Halloween. Captain's a zombie. He was guillotined from the SGPN guillotine last night, unfortunately. So bad times for you, Captain. I took no pleasure in waking up to find that you were dead this morning. So yeah, unfortunate. But we move on, which is important. Hitter props. I jotted down a couple, Scott. Not confident players at all. But if you had a look around the backs, is there anything else in there?
Well, I gotta feel like it. I'm gonna start off with Marte in some capacity. I'll probably go with the bases for Marte. It's really tough to go against him. We know how efficient and how consistent he's been all postseason long. His bases are at -110 actually on DraftKings for 1.5. I'll take that. I think Marte is once again the most consistent hitter on this team. I don't like Heaney at all. I think once again he might be decent in a small sample, but Marte has just been a machine. And I feel like getting -110 is a good price for him. So I'll go with Marte bases on that one. I know a lot of people like Christian Walker today because he's good against left-handed pitching, but that's only going to be for about 2-3 innings because I don't think Heaney's going to go more than 3. So I feel like that's kind of a lazy handicap from some people, unless you think Walker gets a hit immediately. But I don't know if it really makes sense to handicap his numbers against a lefty when he might only have one at bat against a lefty. That just feels like a waste of actual research. So I am not going to take Walker. I know that I tend to give out a lot of hits props, usually the no hits, to go for a decent plus money price. I like Garcia no hits if he plays. That oblique injury did not look good, I'll tell you that much. And I do wonder, with it being the World Series, he's going to try to tough it out. You're not going to see Bochy bench him, I'll tell you that much. But if Garcia's in the box, I'm going to bet him to not get a hit because I just wonder how especially with how Garcia swings, he has such a violent swing. It's kind of like Solarish. And I do think that when you put that much torque into your body and your back's messed up, you're probably not going to generate much power. You're not going to be able to stay on balance. So I like Garcia no hits if he ends up playing because once again, with the injury, that's a classic IL stint if it's the regular season, but he can't afford luxury. So I think that fading him makes a lot of sense here. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else I'm really tempted by because a lot of the guys that I'm not a big fan of have been put at relatively cheap prices, like Longoria's at even money. I'm not interested. One guy I am interested in is actually Tavares. I like Tavares no hits at +145. He's been terrible this entire series, and it's +145, so I feel like that's a great price. Give me Tavares no hits at that price. That seems like a bargain, doesn't it?
Well, Scott, he's one of my players. You know I love it when I pick something and then one of you American people pick it because it sounds like I know what I'm talking about. Tavares has been struggling. In fact, the two hitters I've got are hitters that I've had my eye on relatively closely. And the first one is Tavares because I like him. But he has been struggling. 4 games without a hit. Under 0.5 total bases. +160 for Tavares, which I like. And the other one I put up as my silly price MVP is Geraldo Perdomo. He did get the only RBI last night for Arizona. And he's been going along really well, you know. He's hit safely 7 in a row. 3 of those have been multi-hit games. And over half a hit tonight is minus 125. So it's a bit bigger. A lot of these are sort of minus 200, minus 180. That's nearer to a working man's price. Perdomo minus 125. So Perdomo over on the hits, Tavares under on the total basis. Yeah, plus 160. I did like that.
I do want to ask you, though, about the MVP race, because we saw this or Munaf and I discussed it in the NLCS, trying to find a cheaper value play for Game 7 by betting on the MVP winner, and Marte was like plus 340. For the Rangers, with Garcia being injured, is there anybody that can actually win besides Seager?
Doesn't look that way. We looked at Evan Carter's been live, but then I think he's been left out the lineup a couple of times, hasn't he?
Well, Carter was my pick pre series at 18-1, but Seager's got 2 home runs. He had the backbreaker in Game 3. He had the game-tying home run in Game 1. Yeah. Of course, that's why Garcia was the favorite after Game 1, because he had the walk-off, but now he's injured. Seager's got 2 home runs in 3 games. Like, I don't know how anyone's supposed to beat him in that lineup. So if you want to go for Texas at a cheaper price to win the series, it's probably going to be Seager. I don't know who else would win it, to be honest. Yeah,
that's good advice. We just said Texas for the series, minus 300. And Corey Seager here at 1.62. What's that? About minus 180, maybe? Yeah, and then it's 9-1 bar. So it looks like a one-horse race at this point. I mean, it could change. I mean, someone like Josh Young, even Nathaniel, we haven't been far away, you know, because Evan Carter did all right. Nathaniel Lowe's done bits and bobs, but that's a good angle in that. Trev, who joined us late, but we'll allow it, did find a pitching prop that we're quite keen on, which is Andrew Heaney, under 2.5 Ks. Hasn't gone over 2.5 since September the 15th. And hasn't gone over 1 inning since the Baltimore series. So Trevor reckon that it's going to be 1 inning max for Heaney, and the under 2.5 K stands out. So that's a nice play as well. Cheers for that one, Trev. I think I'm done, Scott. Do you have anything else you'd like to point out?
Just checking a couple more pitching props, mostly on Heaney, just because I'm curious since he's barely going to pitch. They have the earned runs for Heaney at 1.5. The under is minus 120. I know it's dangerous because Heaney's not that great, but how do I not take the under? His outs are at 9.
1 inning, yeah.
His outs are at 9. I just need him to not get buried.
Yeah, 1.5. Exactly.
Like that sounds like a pretty cheap deal for a guy who's barely going to pitch.
We think, if anything, the books might be wrong on that line as well. If you look taking Trev's handicap there, we're getting nowhere near 9. Trev's going closer to 3, and I think that's probably right. Might be 4, might be 5. At that point, the strikeouts come into play, and also the earned runs come into play exactly as you say, Scott.
Or maybe even he pitches well. Let's say that Heaney does go over the outs. If he still pitches well, you're not totally dead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I think the 1.5 is way too high. I think that's I get the argument. He's starting and he's not been good, but once again, if let's just say best case scenario for Trev and I, he goes 3 outs and he's done. 1.5 runs at minus 120. Yeah, that's just an under. Like, I think that's a crazy line.
Yeah, let's get involved in that as well. The chat is moving lines apparently as we speak. And then Brian Samarin has just chirped up with Newcastle to win the Champions League. So that's bit me up, Brian. You can stay. Very welcome.
Borussia game?
That's all right, Scott. We never do it the easy way, mate. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's fair.
We like to go around the houses. Okay, well, I feel better about this game now than I did 25 minutes ago, because I was a little bit underwhelmed by everything. But as usual, the DJs have we've pulled together and we've all headed down in the same direction here. So I've got some winners. We've got some winners. Looking forward to it, Scott. Right, thank you everyone who did join in, because like I say, you've given me some food for thought. Now you've given me some bullets to fire at this game. Thank you very much, Scott. I apologise for being late, then early, then late, and all just generally disorganised. That will happen the rest of the week, though, so don't expect it to change. You're going to turn up and I won't be here. or
I'm
I'll
not
be
sure if I'm
waiting.
doing a show with you for the rest of the week, so that might not be
Well,
my problem.
You're certainly not doing it at the time you think you are, because I won't be there. Brilliant. Look forward to it. Everyone, enjoy the game. Good luck with your bets. And we will see you down the road, cheers.